I am Kim Fowley. I am product. I make product. I am product. I live for product. My normalcy is contained in the grooves of the recordings I make. You can't get a groove on the internet or on an iPod, or you can't get it on a radio, you can't get it anywhere, but there's metaphysical grooves. And I got my metaphysical groove on. My favorite record of all time is Jerry Lee Lewis, High School Confidential, tied with Devil Vikings, Whispering Bells, tied with Rags to Riches by Tony Bennett, tied with Kenny Baker, Remember, tied with John Fred and the Playboys, Judy in Disguise, tied with Ray Stevens, Mr. Businessman, tied with the only album the Skyliners made, tied with Mona Lisa by Carl Mann. Alan Freed, I was his food runner in 1959, and I said, what is rock and roll, Mr. Freed? He said, it's when tough guys dry fuck at the youth center with all the lights on when they're doing a slow dance. You gotta give the tough guys a slow dance so they can do the grind against the Virgin at the Catholic Youth Club. I said, yeah. So Alan Freed said it's okay to do a slow song, you know, so the bad guys could do some humping. And then in the car, he said you need the right doo-wop record or the right hillbilly record so you can ram other cars on the highway and you can beat the shit out of people. You gotta have the right song when the boys get ready to rumble. Rumble the jungle, you know. This is a weapon of some kind. I collect toys. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, in another place and time, after school in junior high, we go over to guys' houses and listen to Bo Diddley records and Chuck Berry records. And we'd wonder what kind of a world that was to live in and have black girlfriends, high yellow goddesses who we could lay in bed with after school and they'd feed us ice cream. That's what we wanted. That was before Elvis Presley. We didn't sit there and speculate on him because he wasn't rhythm and blues. He wasn't doo-wop. He was just a white guy who girls liked. That doesn't happen anymore. People going after junior high school, they don't even call it junior high in California where I'm living now. They call it middle school. Well, what happened? In the 60s, people would wait for certain albums to come out and they'd all smoke dope and listen to the albums and speculate on the bass sound and the drum part and all of that. Room full of musicians listening over and over again to a Loving Spoonful record. What a day for a daydream. I remember Danny Hutton and John Phillips. Danny Hutton was Three Dog Night and John Phillips of Mamas and Papas co-hosted this party, and people just sat there and listened to the single over and over again to dissect it, and they had dinner and people kept listening to it. That doesn't happen anymore. You listen to Fall Out Boy alone now on the internet. When your mother says, turn that thing down, she doesn't even yell that because you have earphones down. So much for communal living through music. The individual has to hear the sound of his own heartbeat. That's the only music he hears. Kim Fowley, in his career, there's 5,000 pieces of vinyl up there, or CD or cassette. And I either wrote it or produced it or published it. I mean, it just goes on and on. And all this is for sale. If any of you collectors want to buy any of it, show up. I'll sell it to you. I have singles and famous wigwam with the gatefold. The drummer committed suicide. Does that mean it makes more money now? It's heavy metal. Well, it's just old records. Phil Spector. I even have a song on here. He produced me, according to this. Produced by Phil Spector. And then you have Between Darling Love and Cheryl. There I Am in All My Beauty. Phil, where are the royalties? New Zealand. Joan did Cherry Bomb again after she went solo, and My Alleged Children. More New Zealand.
Are those your children?
I've been told they are, I'm not sure. You never know what's true and what's false in show business, you know. Now this is one of the best records I ever made. St. John Green. Imagine if the Doors were more musical. With a Jim Morrison who had TB. And slept on a cot in between sets and coughed up blood. And then all the girls fell in love with him, and then when he stopped smoking, he gained 100 pounds and didn't die. Topanga Canyon's Beatles, as it were, you know. Only they weren't the Beatles. A tremendous band. I'm proud of this record. I'm not proud of a lot of them, but this is really something, you know. Back here are tapes. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, there were a lot of... Be careful, they'll sue you.
Okay.
You don't need all those problems, but...
Yeah.
These are... I have reel-to-reels, all for sale. Everybody's interested. You want to ask a question about all this crap?
Yeah, I think if you can just keep telling me which ones you really like.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's thousands of them. I don't know. There's more than I don't have everything. This was my late Scott Goddard, who was a surf punk writer, and he died recently. But he was a nice person, quite the artist. Oracle of Vinyl, looking for the secret of life. Inside the groove, you move slowly to savor the microscope. You can't cope with today. You have to place it in your hand and listen carefully to the sound of honesty in music, the sound of lives in other centuries, in other decades, where if you could take a time machine vacation, you'd be the happiest person in the world. Welcome to the vinyl time machine. It'll take you wherever you want to go. Metaphorically, I was Sam Phillips meets Michael Todd.
How so?
Michael Todd was a hustler and Sam Phillips was a talent scout who had studio skills. I'm both. I have a good dress and I have a hot date, and I have lots of ideas.
What's the best record you ever made?
Best record I ever made, Street Talk, New Zealand on Warner Brothers.
What do you think is the most valuable record? In your eyes, not in the eyes of collectors, but in your eyes, what's the most valuable record you've made?
The most valuable record was the B-side of Don't Be Cruel, where Elvis Presley proved he could sing ballads.
What's the song of Don't Be?
I want you, I need you, I love you.
And what do you think is the most The worst record you've made that's the most...
Well, the worst record that was ever made by anybody, I never made a bad record, but the record that's the worst record ever made by a major artist was Enjoy Yourself by Jackson 5. Because anytime somebody says enjoy yourself, that's called a hard sell, and nobody wants a hard sell in the lyric of their music.
What do you think people want to listen to?
People want to listen to teardrops and heartache. People who are alone need support. That's why James Taylor is so good. He sings for all the lonely people. The lonely person buys the most records because they need music the most. The dinner for one crowd.
What do you think of record collectors?
I think record collectors are needed. Somebody has to love this stuff, besides those of us who make it. Whoever they are reverting back to the past because they think that was great. Everyone in the past dreamed of today. But our future doesn't have flying cars like we were promised in the 21st century. We were promised cities with bubble plexiglass so we wouldn't have smog and harmful rays from the sun. The stars wouldn't fall on us. So we live in cities, or we live in dirty rooms like this in suburbs. And we listened to yesterday on our vinyl records, and we shed a tear for what we think was easy. It wasn't easy, it was awful. So all of you guys are full of shit, and you're really idiots. Although I understand the beauty of a purple record label on a piece of vinyl that shines, and you can hold it in your hand, and you can speculate on Negro drummers wearing red shoes and black fat women wearing turquoise dresses singing about your diary in Long Island when you couldn't fuck because you didn't look like James Dean and you were a piece of crap with pimples were probably under this face that glow like red headlights in a summer day when you're never touched by Sandra Dee with better body parts. So of course you have to collect records. What else are you going to do? Answer, kill somebody and join the army and go to a hillbilly strip club and listen to Link Ray, you know.
What was your first record?
In 1941, it was a karaoke by Bananas on Her Head, Carmen Miranda. Yeah, that was my first record.
That is amazing. That explains it all.
Right.
That explains it all to me. Did you, when you got the record, how did you get the record? What was
My mother and father and grandmother and other relatives were waiting for baby's first word. And it was a year and a half. And instead of saying Mama, Dada, I said, a question, why are you all bigger than me? And they should have asked, said, because we're older and we were born before you. Oh, you can converse, so let's get you off the floor, put you up in a high chair, and we'll talk to you on eye level. Instead, my mother said, I gave birth to a fucking genius. A fucking genius. And she held me out. I gave birth to a fucking genius and ran towards the house, which was Brentwood, California. And there was a little room with a record player, and she said, talk to the music, baby. I sat there and she cried, feeling sorry for herself that she gave birth to someone smarter than her. And that was the day I entered the music business. And it was also the day I realized I better be careful what I say. I've made 5,000 records. And by making, I've either written it, produced it, published it, financed it, sang on it. Somehow I was involved. And I've got crates of this stuff. This is like turds, or pimples, or dimples, or popsicles and icicles, or teardrops, cosmic nuggets. I used to sit there and imagine just, it is beautiful to see that. I mean, yellow and black, and there's a whole universe here, there's a whole other world. That's why you guys are so obsessed, because we can put a whole universe in 2 minutes on one of these things. I mean, after we're dead, we're worm food. Rats and worms fighting over the remains in a graveyard somewhere. These things still exist. It's like a diary. It's like a memento of yesterday. Vinyl comes in 3 shapes: injection mold, fill vinyl, and pure vinyl. Those on the West Coast were the main vinyl components. The record's styrene. We can't forget styrene. These are the components of the chemicals that made your time machine possible. Go on Google and research and see how dangerous those chemicals are. There's nothing very original about rock and roll in the first place. It's derivative, and it's black music, folk music, country music, jazz music in various inversions, made by people who have record collections, who want to recycle what somebody has already created. And by default, these records are unique. That you think they're cute. They're actually inferior. The Beatles were the best band in the world. Elvis was the best singer in the world in terms of rock and roll, and then you have your great performers, great best singer in the world for Crying, Tears of Joy, Roy Orbison, best guy for Pathos and Majesty, Freddie Mercury, doo-wop, Tony Williams, lead singer of The Platters, Jimmy Beaumont, genius, lead singer of Skyliners, doo-wop gods who are my heroes. When I'm dead, I want Whispering Bells played at my funeral. And when I get to heaven, hell, or purgatory, I want the Marcells to do a medley of Blue Moon and Heartaches, holding up the Colpix label with red and black lettering. They were from Pittsburgh, of course. So I mean, I'm as bad as you guys. I see the value in Whip It On Me Pretty Baby by Jesse Hill as opposed to Oop-a-Doo by Jesse Hill. I understand why Robert Plant came up to me at a sex orgy once when 2 girls were having sex, and he said, I want to ask you a question. I went outside, he said, Jill and the Boulevards, do you have that record? I said, what about what's going on in the room? He said, I don't care about that. I'm Robert Plant, I see it every day. I suppose it's there if I want to see it, but I'm really interested in Jill and the Boulevards. It's the record I'm going to pay $25,000 for. If you know anybody, let me know. I said, what about Stormy Weather? He said, no. I want Jill and the Boulevards. So if any of you have a Jill and the Boulevards record, Robert Plant has 25 grand for you. Get him before he forgets. Maybe he's forgotten, or maybe he's bought the record by now. He would pay up to $25,000 for that single. Are you getting the human interest aspect of this? And then we'll display them in a minute, and then that'll be another shot.
They kind of look amazing just all out on the floor like this too.
Yeah. or we can do to kill time, once, if you want, we'll get the most colorful ones and I can talk about each one. Well, I might change shirts for that one. Ooh, yeah. Is a record collector. Is the voice on?
Mm-hmm.
Guy Stevens, who produced the Clash and Mott the Hoople, he was a record collector first. And there he is. I have a song on here from the Hollywood Argylls I co-produced, and he was a collector. He even put himself collecting on the cover of his first CD collection, or volume 2. Kim Fowley is over-documented. www.kimfowley.com tells my story. My chauffeur was Kyle. He was in Candy. I made their demos. They came out on Polygram. The guy who wrote all the songs was Jonathan Daniel, now manager of Fall Out Boy. Hey Jonathan, you're rich, enjoy it. The Trip, a song I co-wrote, the dance version. Chart record in Austria. Record I'm proud of from New Zealand on Warner Brothers, Street Talk. Another New Zealand record, The Crocodiles. Talked about my other chauffeur, Scott Goddard, earlier. I produced this. Producing and writing on this compilation, a lot of compilations in my collection. Here's one of my more famous collections, Venus and the Razor Blades, and which I produced. And then I had songwriting on this from Sweden. And this was a compilation I had a production on, and another on Warner Brothers, and another Pebbles compilation of me on the radio. Andrew Oldham, Rolling Stones' original producer. I sang on this record, and he sang on it too under the name Bowen Peep in England. American Graffiti, produced music for that. Gene Vincent, one of the founders of Rockabilly, I was his producer number 6. He had 7 in his lifetime. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's been reissued 10 different times in Europe. Another New Zealand record I published. This is me as a pretty boy on EMI and Capitol.
Can you hold it up a little bit higher?
Back in the glitter era. Now you're cropping me.
I got your head, don't worry.
Please.
I got your head.
Here's a band from Maryland, Dirty Deal, I produced. Kim Fowley played Frankenstein on ABC television. This was the soundtrack back in the 80s. The Orchids, producer. Mott the Hoople minus Ian Hunter, I had a song on there. which got on the Mott the Hooples box set later from the UK. Venus and the Razor Blades album. And from Sweden, the Scorpion group, which I produced. Anders Larsson. And Helen Reddy, the Queen of Housewife Rock. Kim Fowley. And Earl Mankey co-produced that. South Africa, the Frankenstein, Queen of Halloween single. Backed with a great B-side. Buy it and you'll hear it. A girl band did a Kim Fowley song. Chris Christopherson's only live chart album. Kim Fowley song. Kim Fowley song on Lord Sitar. That's not Debbie Harry, but they look similar. It's a compilation on GMP Crescendo I produced. More Crocodiles, who I published. Co-writing with Steppenwolf. Asian girl group, Japanese girl group, doing a Kim Fowley song. Kim Fowley song done by a one-hit wonder, Rose Garden. Co-wrote 7 songs with Leon Russell and others. On this album is charted, his last chart record. Hi Leon. The Byrds had 5 albums with them. This is one of them as a co-writer with Skip Batten and Roger McGuinn on various songs. Another surf compilation, producer, co-writer, etc. Kim Fowley, the soloist. This was the famous compilation, but it was sort of a sound-alike album. Stars on 45, 8 million units globally. I wrote the last instrumental on side 2. Compilation, The Germs, who I produced, their first album, Live at the Whiskey.
How was that producing them?
A lot of people throwing up and fighting and getting drunk, that's what it was like. Darby, nice guy. Pat Smear, nice guy. Another compilation of a Kim Fowley song. The Fabulous Kiss with 2 Kim Fowley songs I co-wrote. Kim Fowley is Salvador Dali. Kim Fowley, it's sold in Austria and Portugal, nowhere else. I was producer, co-writer. Rocky Burnett actually autographed this to me. It says, Kim, the best, keep rocking, your friend Rocky Burnett, who had a great single, Tired of Towing the Line. On my first day in Hollywood, his dad, Dorsey Burnett, and his uncle, Johnny Burnett, came to the studio and welcomed me to Hollywood, along with the Champs and Dave Burgess, the producer of the Champs, and it's quite a night. It was my first, February 3rd. The day that music died was the day that I came to Hollywood to carry on the tradition in my own mind. Group from Kansas. The Bandpots, Kim Fowley co-writing. Or no, Kim Fowley full writing. Kim Fowley producing. And then Kim Fowley's French record.
Just hold that up again, I'm sorry I missed it.
Oh, it's an ugly one.
I love it.
It's an ugly guy.
Let me see it.
There's been 2 other covers since then.
Did you design the cover on that?
No, I had nothing to do with it. I just sing on it, play on it. A group from Ohio did a Kim Fowley co-write. Kim Fowley co-writing on Spirit's album, which charted. Kim Fowley published Motley Crue's first single, Stick to Your Guns, before they were on a major label. Kim Fowley's been early. The first ever Love-In album, Kim Fowley, artist, 1967.
What do you mean by Love-In album?
Love-In, outside, Love-In, you know, hippies out in the park every Saturday and Sunday, here it is. Kim Fowley in Germany, banned in Berlin. We had a riot when I performed.
Tell me about that.
It was a riot.
Why?
Because I'm so animalistic on stage.
What would you do on stage?
Come see me live. I play every now and then. Here we go, coming to New York. By the time this movie comes out, I will have played New York 5 times and no one will ever talk to you again for I'll be making gigs. You'll know when you lose your apartment in October what happened when I go on stage. I dress as a policeman sometimes on stage. Sometimes I'm Outlaw Superman on stage. Becky Hobbs, the country R&B version of Carole King, who I co-wrote with and co-published with. I'm a former producer of The Seeds, some of their material. Best album cover today and yesterday and any other day. This is it. Grammy should have gone to this guy Sheldon who drew this picture. Guy Stevens, may he rest in peace, the ultimate record collector turned A&R man turned producer of Clash and Ian Hunter and Mott the Hoople. Michael DeBar and the Guys, Detective, did a Kim Fowley song, thank you. Becky Hobbs wrote. Who would have thought that a country woman could have written a heavy metal song, but she did. Hallelujah. Street Talk, the Dire Straits meet the boss of New Zealand. There's the Dorian Gray of rock and roll himself, Kim Fowley. The picture sleeve single. Oh, collectors, ooh, 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 ooh. How about Holland? Kim Fowley produced. How about Australia? Kim Fowley did the video for this and got banned. They've only banned 2 videos in the history of Australia. Rishi doing Strangers in the Night, the first video I ever directed, and Rocky Horror Picture Show got banned there also.
Why did you think they banned it?
Because I had girls rolling men down the street in real time in garbage cans wearing mini dresses at 5 in the afternoon. Tommy Rock, King of Las Vegas. Joyce Smithers, Princess of Australia, co-writer, Kim Fowley. My last chart record in the alternative charts of NME and Melody Maker. One was 5, one was 7 in the charts. Superstar, Nylon Bombers, back in the 90s, mid-90s. And then The Ultimate Fantasy, where Kim Fowley was a co-writer, speculating that Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe should have met each other and fallen in love. Not every record's a hit, but they're certainly interesting. Here's an immortal record on flashback. Jimmy Charles is on it, Baby Washington, and my record, Dedication Time by the Memories, which was like a Chantel's from the barrio. I have on Chattahoochee, the label that Popsicles and Icicles were on, another band called the Half Sisters, doing stuffed animals, which I'm obsessed with, as you can tell. Done at Gold Star Studios of Stan Ross. Russ Reagan, otherwise known as Russ Regan, who named the Beach Boys, bought this record from me, Super Fox by the Hound Dog Clowns. On Conti Records, my girl doo-wop classic, Gone But Not Forgotten. They are the girls that sang the background of Comedy and Tragedy on the first limited edition of Chattahoochee. Bruce Johnson of the Beach Boys, and I wrote the B-side, Actions Speak Louder Than Words, published by Bobby Darin. Another R&B record, The Buckaroo by Deacon Lee and the Prophets from Oakland, produced by me. On the way to the session, the trailer caught fire and the instruments were on fire, and we recorded anyway. A surf group did Pink Dominoes in Australia, which I co-published. We Bump on the Stingers, the EP from England. Reputation by the Rangers, who became the Sunrays, Midas, the late Steve O'Reilly, who was could have been the next Eddie Cochran, but wasn't. Pair of socks. Miss Frank Zappa's wife and I dated. On our date, Gail Zappa, we imitated Sonny and Cher on Drop Out a Go-Go, and the A side America's Sweethearts by Bunny and Bear, only 100 printed. On Living Legend, my label. Step right up. Rob Lowry in the collection, he was a whaler at one point. I wrote the B-side of his single, Get Out of My Life, Organized Confusion, on Creative Family, which is my label. Gramophone Records. Oh, the original pressing. No, the second pressing of Popsicles and Icicles with Bunny Stomp on the back, the instrumental, very rare. Redondo Rock by the Surfside Six and South Bay and Palisades Records, which I produced. The Doors drummer before he met Jim Morrison, the rest of the band, in the Wolf Pack on Incredible Records, The Baddest Wolf. Dale Harris, we did a Willie Nelson song with a big band on Tower, I produced. Gary Paxton, lead singer of Alley Oop, I was co-producer. Under the name Mavericks, before Madonna used the name, we used it for our publishing company, which he now owns. Going to the River, written by Fats Domino. The Trip, Kim Fowley classic from Corvallis, Oregon. The initial pressing on Corby Records. Kim Fowley, Bubblegum and Wildfire. The famous one with the reversed labels on Imperial. Next, Flower Town, the Kim Fowley co-write. Next playing the London B-side and Atco. K&G Records, Kim and Gary as Kim and Gary of Kim Fowley, Gary Paxton. Richard Berry, who wrote Louie Louie. I'm Your Fool, great song. Should have been covered by Etta James. Here's some history. I produced the Rivingtons when they were the Crenshaws on Warner Brothers, the first black doo-wop group on the label. Later covered their composition, Papa Mau Mau, as Surfing Bird. And here's the original pressing by the Trash Man. Here on Verve Records is my Finnish group Wigwam, which I produced and wrote for at one point. Your favorite single, The Hellions, right? Do you like it? Say yes if you do.
Yes, it's my absolute
That's
favorite
Jim
song.
Capaldi and Dave Mason, who later joined Traffic, written by Jackie DeShannon and produced by me, with Keith Grant, the Stones engineer at Olympic Studios. They did some records over there. After Andrew Legaldum. Alley Oop, the original pressing. David Bowie loved the B-side horns. Same label that had Daybreaker. Vince Edwards, the famous actor who played a doctor on television, his single. Why Did You Leave Me? I was head of A&R, but the B-side, the classic, Squealin' Parrot Twist. Imagine a squealing parrot. Here's the original pressing of Motorboat and 25 Hours a Day by Jimmy Jukebox. Notice what it says here. Recorded American Colony Venus, and over here, recorded in Denny's parking lot. So there, that's a long way to go to make a record. Sir Douglas Quintet, Mishra Khan, which I co-wrote, the last single on Mercury. And Everybody Needs a Record That No One Ever Heard. Island Girl, but the great B-side was Houston Blues, the instrumental by Ronnie David. Beth, hi Beth and Ronnie had just gotten married, and their honeymoon was watching Ronnie sing the song in El Monte. And the band that played on it was the late Ben Benet on harmonica, and Mike Henderson, may he rest in peace. Mike Henderson was a horn player with Eddie Cochran. And Ben Benet, of course, was one of the Wrecking Crew alumni. Here they are. As Jack Benny said, when you die and you go to wherever your eternal reward is, remember one thing. No one has ever seen a luggage rack on a hearse taking the coffin to the graveyard. So I can't take this with me. You might as well enjoy it. What was more fun? Doing the records that no one ever heard of? Those were the honest ones. This was paying the rent. All the record stores are closing down, lost and found. No more going down town, across town, out of town, to find the treasures of the pleasure dome, to find that final home. Don't you feel it's like the fall of ancient Rome? All the record stores have closed their doors, and sitting there in front of your internet, where's the milk? Where's the bread? Where's the death? Where's the life? It's like having no dirty pictures in prison, or no wedding ring on your hand. It's like going to a dance in the darkness, and they don't even have a band. So what we gonna do in this world brand new? We have to listen to music by ourselves, like a mutated elf, and we ask these questions to ourselves. Why have they closed all the record stores? And the answer to your question is, we have to listen to music alone now. We live alone and make love to ourselves alone. We'll die alone. We're now in the alone generation. 100 years from now, Napster will be like shellac. People will hear music when it's embedded in their brain at birth. It will be programmed that way with chips. And you'll press different fingernails for happy music, sad music, etc. That's how you'll hear music in the future. Enjoy it.